Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Wow, it's been a heck of a week. There's been a lot going on. I guess we can go ahead and take care of the elephant in the room since that's what everybody seems to be commenting on, and that was Vectric has released version 11.5 of the software. And I have to admit, when I first saw the improvements made in the 11.5, the interface, the new tools, etc., I was a little bit underwhelmed. But I got a little bit further into it, and I'm not alone in this, in being underwhelmed, that is. But I think people are really underestimating the magnitude of this update, of this upgrade. They have basically gone under the hood and completely, totally rebuilt the way this new software handles 3D. And oh man, this is totally new software. Now, if you're running it on an older computer, I will say that you need to check your graphics drivers and update to the latest version of drivers that you have, for whether you're using the integrated graphics that came with your computer or you have an accessory graphics card like I have on this computer and my main computer in the house. I did have to update the drivers on this one, the drivers on the big graphics card, and I have a NVIDIA GTX 1070 on the computer in the house. And I have the Quadro K620 out here, which is much, much smaller. But they have a separate GPU for graphics. That's a graphics processor that the older versions, 11.0 and earlier, didn't take advantage of. They just used the standalone RAM and the CPU in the computer mainly. The new version, 11.5, takes advantage of that GPU. And oh man, is it different. It's a totally new piece of software. Things happen in real time. You no longer have to click an apply button and apply those changes. It's all right there. Let me load up a piece of clip art over here in the I've got it open in another window, and I'll share that with you in just a second. Let's find something, anything that'll work, and I'll come back over here and I'll share screen with you. If you, I've got a flicker, and here's hoping that calms down. Is that going to trigger anybody's stuff? Well, it looks like I've not got StreamYard to play nice with this. Oh man. If that bothers anybody, let me know. I've got a serious flicker around the borders. I'm using my cursor like you can see it. I've got a serious flicker up here and then along one side over here. Um, Let me know if that bothers you, and I'll cancel the screen share. But basically, anything you do out here now happens in real time in the 3D view. And let's play with this a little bit. Come on. Kind of rock this back some. And if you noticed in my move and transform mode, come on. There we go. The move and transform mode is a little bit different now, in that they have made these boxes for rotation and resizing a lot bigger. You no longer have to, you know, really focus in on it. But they've also added 3D interaction right here, in that now we no longer have to go into the modeling tab and go up here into properties to adjust heights. We can now come right over here to this little arrow on top of the box, and we can adjust the model thickness right there. If we want to add base height, we can grab hold of the box itself and add base height to the model right there. So all of this and it now happens in real time. It all happens in real time while you're sitting here looking at it. You no longer have to go in and adjust in the properties window. And that helps a lot. I mean, holy cow. Now, must be said here, let me change this real quick. I'm in low modeling resolution. Let me go to very high and let that do its thing. Okay, now we'll go back over here into the modeling tab. And yeah, that's much better. Okay. Just the ability to manipulate the model right out here without having to go back into the properties and then hope. You can adjust on the fly and stop when you want to stop it. And that looks good right there. Then we come over here to the 3D view, go back to the straight Z, and I'm just going to uh, calculate a finishing toolpath real quick with the 1/8" ball nose. I'm not going to make any changes out here. We'll just calculate it. Calculation time is now much faster, much faster. Uh, that would have taken quite a bit to do that. And let's zoom in here. And now let's go ahead and preview it. This I like. Well, it was so ding dong fast. The preview was so fast. Let me reset that. And we're going to slow down the speed of that preview. I can now manipulate while that preview is running, which is a very cool thing, a real cool feature as far as I'm concerned. That's going to help me a lot when it comes to the video quality here, and being able to get in and focus on specific segments of the carve and see what the tool is doing, where it's doing it, and how it's doing it. That is a real cool option to have. And if I see it doing anything I don't want it to do, all I need to do is come down here and click this red X right at the bottom right there, and that will stop that preview. And the response is almost instant. I mean, this really is a game changer. Let me bring that back up to full speed so we can see how fast this now previews this project, and we'll just start it from scratch and wham, done. Holy cow. This would have taken a few minutes in the older versions. They've really gone under the hood and tightened things up and just completely changed how it displays and how fast it calculates. And personally, I'm excited about these changes right here in and of themselves. Never mind the additional tools that they have added. So, yeah, if you're on the fence about upgrading to 11.5, that right there, in and of itself, makes this upgrade worth it. Just the better 3D renders, the real-time modifications, the real-time interaction. It all makes it worth it. Everything is so much smoother. It's a new program. So hats off to the development crew. They really did a number on that. So let's go over here to some of your questions. Let's see, Jim Brown was in first with one. He said, using VCarve Pro 11, when I use Vector Validator, I have 633 intersections, 234 overlaps. Been there. When I search again, it puts the error in a different place each time I search. Okay, there may be more than one place those vectors intersect or where they overlap. And so you fix one overlap or intersection, there was another one. That would be, for instance, and I'm kind of doing a thumbnail sketch here. If you have two vectors that overlap like so, you have an overlap here and you have an overlap there. Well, if you fix this one, now you still have the overlap back here. So there may be more than one intersection using the same vectors. There may be more than one overlap. So with that many overlaps and that many intersections, I would say you need to go back and re-examine those vectors and possibly retrace them or redraw them, because that's a lot. And that would take a long, long time to get in and clean up. But you're talking about 633 intersections. Wow. Um, yeah, you might want to consider getting back in and doing a little bit more, I don't know, reevaluation of those vectors, because something is not right. Um, and it may be something as simple as going in and trimming, because if you have two vectors that come in and kind of meet like so, you can trim, find my fingers, trim one away and be done with that intersection. So, but yeah, that's a lot of intersections and overlaps. Something is happening there in the background. Let's see here. Yeah, Brooks Martin has a good one. What is everybody else's impression of version 11.5? I mean, I like it. I like it a lot. And again, I think a lot of people are underestimating this update, because it's not a lot of bling and shiny chrome on the outside, but under the hood, it's a totally new program. So, see, Norm wants to know, have I tried 11.5 yet? Yes, sir, I have. In fact, your question gave me a momentary, just a quick moment of panic, because I looked at the icon. I have the Aspire pinned to my taskbar, and something I forgot to do. Let me screen share here. Um, okay, jump over here. If you look down here on my taskbar, I have Aspire pinned down there. Well, I still had 11.0 pinned there. I didn't have 11.5 pinned. So when I fired it up, uh, I saw your question, Norm. Said, "Oh man, I need to start Aspire." And I clicked that icon, and it opened up 11.0. And then I thought, oh crap, did I forget to put 11.5 on this computer? I had to go dig around, look in the menus, and found it and changed the pin, and everything is fine now. But thank you for asking that question. It made me have to rethink everything. So, man, okay, let's see here. Um, let's see here. RB Woodworks, being able to add multiple models is a great plus. I don't know what you're talking about. If you mean importing STL files in vCarve, you're still restricted to one. But in with the clip art that comes with the software, it's unlimited, and it always has been. But it's, you know, yeah. And it imports a lot faster too. So, I mean, I haven't done any videos, and I don't know if I will do any videos specifically on the updates in 11.5, but I certainly will mention them when I come across something um, that has to do with the new updates, that is. So let's see here. Looking to see, do we have any? Um, all right. Okay. GR Greg wants to know how to add a form tool with a small radius into the database. Okay. That's fairly straightforward. Let me get over here and screen share again. That's also another new feature they have added. Let me go ahead and go back over here to the 2D view. We'll close this. No, I don't want to save it. We don't have a file open out here. If you notice, you now have a limited machine menu and a limited toolpaths menu. So you no longer have to start a file out here to get into your tool database. Now, it is limited. You can only go into materials or tool database without having a file open. But since that's what the question's about, that's what we'll use. Now, if you want to add a form tool, let's go down here to the form tools menu. I don't have a vector. I'll draw one, I guess. Well, for that case, I will need to have a file open because I'll have to draw a vector. When you get the tool, the first thing I would suggest is you go to the manufacturer and see if they have a digital file that shows the profile. Some manufacturers have a set of DXF files that you can go in and download, and it has a drawing, a vector drawing of the profile of the tool. If you don't have that drawing, you'll have to do some measuring and draw it yourself. So let's do a real quick and easy drawing here. I'm going to, let's see, I'll draw a rectangle and anchor the center on my X0, Y0, and we'll make it 3/4 of an inch wide by 1 inch tall, and make it square. We'll create that, close. Now I'm going to jump in here, and right off the bat, what I'll do is go into node edit mode, select it, go into node editing. Right here, I'm going to insert a point right on my X0, Y0. Insert a point right here as well, insert a point. Then I'm going to cut the vector right at that insert and delete that side. Well, I probably should have gone ahead and just cut that entire thing. I'll delete that span. And let's come out of node editing. And I'll use a fillet tool, and I'll put in, we'll call that the shape of my bit. Now, what you need to create a form tool is you need a vector, a single open vector of the right side of that tool's profile. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter. You specifically said if it has a small radius. The radius doesn't matter. The size of the overall size of the vector does. It should be the length of at least the cutting edge of the tool. Okay. So for this tool that I'm inventing in my head, from the center line here to this edge here is 3/8 of an inch. And from the top here to the bottom is 1 inch. That means that the cutter head is going to be 1 inch tall and 3/4 of an inch wide. Because remember, I've only got the right side of the tool. We'll take that open vector that's on the right side, we'll select it. I'll go into my tool database, go down here to the form tool category. Where am I at? There I am. And add a tool under that group. I'll need to come up here and select form tool. And you see what it did. It took that vector and it created the second side of it. And I now have this shape. This is the shape of my form tool. Now, as I said, the radius, the size of the radius doesn't matter because it's going to take that right side and it's going to extend it out, put a mirrored copy over to the left side. Okay. And then what we'll do is it's already got the diameter of 3/4 of an inch. I need to enter the number of flutes. Let's say this is a 2-flute bit. Then I'll click Create Settings. Then I'll go in and I'll get a pass depth, step over, spindle speed, feed rate, plunge rate, all of that. Then I'll click Apply. So the tool name as it sits right now is Form Tool. I can click on this and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Form Tool 3/4. That's all I'm going to do. Click Apply and there it is. My new tool is added. So your radius doesn't matter. What matters is, click OK. What matters is this vector out here. If I were to delete that, no, let's not delete it. Let's use it as a basis here. I'll go from here to here, close, and delete that. And then down here, what do I want to do? No, I'm not going to go through all that. Yeah, I will go through all that. What the heck? Let's create a circle with a diameter of 0.0625. So 1/16 of an inch. And I'm going to come down and I'm just going to put it right about here. Bonk. Oh, wow. I zoomed in real close. Close. Now let's take this, move it up. I want to put this edge right on the tip. Bang. And I'm inventing as I go along. Scoot this over to about right there. Okay. Now I'll get in and trim this up. And let's see, close this. I need to draw a line here. And then I'll come along, clean this up. I know you're wondering, what the heck is he doing? Well, bear with me. Close. Now I'll come in and clean up this mess. There we go. And trim that, and trim that. So now I have an odd radius down here. I can still take this vector with that odd radius, select it, go into my tool database, create a form tool, bong, and add that form tool, and it created that profile with that radius down on the bottom. Okay. So does that make sense? I mean, I did do a separate save my changes. No, I don't want to save my changes. David Gammett wants to know, is there a way to make that radius perfectly tangent? Yes, and I plan on doing a video on doing just that because we get into smart snapping and geometry snapping up here, and I haven't really done a complete video on that, on snapping geometry or vectors or start points or stop points, making them tangent to another vector or what have you. There are ways of doing it, and I do plan on making a a video dedicated to that. So I hope that answers your question, Greg. I did do a video on entering a form tool. In fact, I used a point cutting uh, plunge tip roundover bit as an example. And I will find a link to that video as soon as we're done here live. I'll link it in the description. So after we're finished live here, give me about 10 minutes max, and I'll have it put in the description. So let's see, form tool. I'm writing myself a note, and there we go. Yes, Becky from Vectric just recently did a video on the 11.5 release, and she covered a lot of uh, snapping to a grid, snapping to to geometry, or smart snapping and geometry snapping. And I'm trying to remember, Brooks, which video that was. I don't recall which specific video it was, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Peter Van Vliet wants to know, did you notice the new button in the tool database screen, variables? Yes, I did. I haven't explored it yet, is why I kind of ignored it. I know a little bit about it, but only enough to get me in trouble. So I don't want to get you in trouble by talking about it because I don't know enough about it to comment on it just yet. That was done to basically streamline the naming convention of your bits. Like you can set up, if you noticed when I did that form tool, the name was form tool 3/4 inch. And in the blank up above it, there were a bunch of variables, which basically said tool type, size, etc. So that if you enter a tool, all tools will be named that way. The tool type, then the size. Well, you can add variables, take variables out so that you have a part number or a diameter, a radius. I mean, there's all kinds of variables you can add. But again, I'm going to do a video dedicated to that because there are so many variables you can add. And it's changeable for every different tool type. So let's see here. GR Greg says, I'm fairly new to all this stuff. Hey, welcome aboard. We were all new at one time or another. Everybody here and everybody you've seen who's running a CNC router has been exactly where you are right now. You will get it. If I can do this, anybody can. So, excuse me. I'm still getting over one of my semi-annual sinus things every spring and every autumn. So if I sound like a duck, that's why. Okay, let's see here. Michael Keymont says, for what it's worth, I tested the freeform drawing using a Wacom tablet and it works great. Yeah, I can see where that would be a huge, huge benefit. I have heard from a lot of people who use tablets that the usefulness of one in anything but Aspire is pretty limited, mainly because you don't have modeling capabilities in VCarve or Cut 2D. So if you're using Aspire to create models, some of the smoothing and texturing uh, and like smudge and things like that, that's very useful. The tablet is very useful for those things because you can zoom in and get, I mean, right in there with it. But when it comes to drawing vectors, it wasn't really of much use. Well, with this free form drawing, I imagine that's going to change and change big time. So a lot of folks who maybe have put their tablet aside we'll dig it out and see just how well that works. So, but yeah, I can see the usefulness for sure. Let's see here. Peter Van Vliet wants to know, how long do you keep the older Vectric versions on your system? Well, I'm kind of a weird case in that I have them all. Um, uh, I bought VCarve Pro version 8.0, and I have every upgrade and update since. I got Aspire 9.0, and I have every update and upgrade since. That's because I have videos out there that were made on those older versions. And if somebody asks a question, I have to go back to that old version, load it up. And if I don't remember the answer off the top of my head, get back in and figure out, okay, that's how I did this. And then I can help with the question. Personally, what I do is what this just my opinion. My opinion would be to keep it. It doesn't hurt anything. All it does is take up space on your computer. If you have the space to where it doesn't interfere with anything, just leave it. There are a couple of advantages to having an older version. And I don't have it on this computer, but I'll give you one case. If you go to um, kind of related to GR Greg's question, if you go to Amana Tools and you download a tool database, that thing is huge, and it will clog up your database and slow down the response time. When you go into your tool database, it'll sit there and hang because it's got to load all those tools. That Amana tool database is every tool they have a database file for, and there are a lot. So rather than clog up my database with a bunch of tools that I don't own, I downloaded the Amana tool database and I imported it into one of those old versions. Then when I do buy an Amana tool, say I buy a 30-degree V-bit, for example, I can go into that older version, find that 30-degree V-bit, and export the tool file for that bit only, and then import that file into my new version that I'm working. So I get that database entry for that bit without loading every bit Amana makes into that tool database. And I did the same thing with Whiteside and RIP Precision Tools, all of that. So I don't have to load their complete database into my current version. I can just import the tools that I personally own. And it doesn't take 15 minutes for the database to load up when I click on it. So it's just one of those things. I mean, I'm not telling you to do that, but that's what I do. And it doesn't hurt to have both versions on your computer. There. And in fact, I got an email from somebody, and forgive me, I don't remember who it was that emailed me. They asked about using both versions at the same time, 11.0 and 11.5. And if your computer has enough RAM, there is nothing wrong with running both at the same time. You're only going to be able to work in one at a time anyway. It's not like you can draw a vector here and a vector there at the same time. So any shared core components, the software can handle it. So you can have 11.0 open and 11.5 open and be working in both. There's nothing wrong with that. It will work depending on your computer. Now, Russell here is talking about if I run short of memory, might delete an old version. Uh, it's more to do with hard drive space, because if you have, well, it's like inside on that computer, I have 8.0 through 11.5, and there's no issues. no issues at all. But I can have a drawing open in 11.5 and then go back and load up vCarve 9.0 and get a few answers or do something, simulate a tool path and get a few answers and then shut it off and go to uh, 11.5 and do what I was doing. So it's less to do with memory and more to do with hard drive space. If you don't have hard drive space, then by all means you might have to do that. But with the price of hard drives has really come down, and you can get a 1 terabyte external hard drive. At least we can here in the States for $50. And if you're the kind that don't like solid state drives, you could get a spinner for about the same price. So let's see here. David Gammett says, can you copy and paste components between two open versions? You know what? I don't know. Let's find out. Now, when you say components, do you mean vectors or 3D components? Let's try it. I don't know. You're going to find out, same as me. So right now I have 11.5 open. I'm going to need to go back in here and find Aspire 11.0 because I took out all my shortcuts. And we've got it loaded. Okay, we have 11.0. Let's create a new file. That's good. Now, this is where Mark gets confused. I have this vector here. It's selected. Let's copy. So hold down Control, tap the letter C. Now let's open 11.0 and paste. Yes, it did a 2D vector. So let's go to 11.5. Let's delete that vector. And let's add a piece of clip art. Let's just do an apple. What the heck? And I've got it open. Let's copy the apple, go into 11.0, and let's delete the vector, and let's paste the apple pasted in. So yes. Yes, both. You can, yes, both components and vectors. So, but the thing is, you have to have both open at the same time and use your context menu, right click. Don't use the Control C, Control V. Use the context menus. Okay. So copy and let's try this. It's 11.0 to 11.5 and we'll paste. Yes, it did. Okay. David Gammett wants to know, can you open two instances of the same version? Yes, you can. Let me show you down here at my taskbar. I've got 11.0. I just right click and click Aspire 11.0 again, and it opens up a new session. And if you look here, I have two 11.0s open and one 11.5 open. Now, Michael Mazalik says Control P and Control V also works. I've not tried Control P. Do you mean Control C? I've not tried Control P. Whoops. Oh, quit it. Somehow everything got highlighted. No, come on. There. All right. Peter Van Vliet, can you open an existing project in any version? Not necessarily. If I, for instance, let me close this second version. That's 11.5. If I just leave this as is and save it in 11.5, I can now open it in 11.5. I cannot open it in 11.0. So they are backwards compatible as far as opening. I can open a file that was made in version 8 or 9 in version 11.5, but I can't open a file that was created in 11.5 in version 8, 9, 10, or 11.0. Okay, they're not forward compatible, but they are backwards compatible. And the reason for that is, simply put, there are parts of the program that get changed under the hood that are not compatible with some of the newer software. So you can go backwards but not forwards. So let's see. Brooke says, my approach, which failed, was right-clicking on the component in the component tree to copy, but within the 2D window, copying works well. Yes, I did not try to copy from the component tree. So, okay, let's stop sharing here. So I'm going to have, boy, all kinds of stuff. Okay, let's see here. We had a question come in. Dwayne Ruthig says, when using clearance toolpaths, the default name is the same as the final one plus open bracket, clear, close brackets. Is there a way to have the name automatically be the bit used for each path? Not automatically, no. You would have to, after the toolpath is created, go in and immediately rename that. And what he's talking about, let me close some of these windows here. I can close 11.0. No, I don't want to save changes. Let's go back to drawing tab and let's delete these, and I'll come back over here, share screen. I do so love to tell you what I'm doing when I'm doing it without showing you. Okay, let's say I got a rectangle here that is like so. And I'm going to pocket this rectangle out. So we'll do a pocket tool path. I'm going to cut it a 1/4 of an inch just to make it pretty quick. And I'm using a 1/4 inch end mill to hog out most of the material, and an 1/8 inch end mill for my finish. And I'm not going to edit any of this. We'll just calculate it and go into the preview. What he's talking about is right down here. It was called Pocket 1. My toolpath name was Pocket 1. And it created 2 toolpaths. The clear uses the 1/4 inch end mill. And if you look at that bubble that opens up right there, when I hover my cursor next to the name, it tells you that the end mill is a 1/4 inch. I have not yet found a way of automatically assigning that name. Pocket 1 uses the 1/8 inch end mill. So what we'll have to do is right click, then rename this one. I'll call it 0.125 inch end mill and hit enter, and that names that one. Then come over here, rename, and just eliminate that and go 0.25 inch end mill and just do it that way. I have not found a way for it to automatically name each one. So, David, if I open either toolpath and change something, do both toolpaths update automatically? If you recalculate the toolpath, you have to recalculate the toolpath. So for instance, if I go in here and I change my depth to 1/8 of an inch, if I close that and then go back into it, it didn't change. I have to recalculate the toolpath. If I recalculate the toolpath after making that change, both of them change automatically. And you'll notice this one added that clear brackets back again. So I'll have to go in, rename, and remove that clear one. So you again, David, it will update both toolpaths, but you have to do that recalculation yourself. It won't automatically change it for you. So, hope that answers that. Let's see. Jeff over at JMJ Love Dance has a question, wants to know what the latest is on the Pirate. Well, if you follow me on Facebook, you've seen this. This is my test piece that I carved over a period of 8 days in a piece of scrap MDF to make sure that my tool paths were correct, get a little bit of experience with this epoxy, and get a little bit of experience in creating this piece. I'm very, very happy with it. This is not finished. And again, this is the test. I'm not finished with it because I got it done and realized I was completely out of 320 grit sandpaper. That's supposed to be here tomorrow. Then I will do the final sand on this and finish it. And all in all, I am, to coin a phrase, Russell, I'm chuffed to bits on this. It really exceeded my expectations. I mean, that turned out really nice. I'm not super happy with the color of the hilt of his sword. That's supposed to be bronze, and it doesn't look bronze to me. And I'm not real happy with the color of his earring. That's supposed to be gold, and that doesn't look gold. It looks more like bronze. So, what can I say? But it was 100% learning, and I learned a lot. I learned a ton by doing this test piece in MDF. Um, and I will be, I'm in the process of doing the real project in a different piece of wood. And I've got part of it poured now. Let's see, when is that supposed to be? That should go live on November 6th is when that video should go live. Okay. Now, someone was asking, Dwayne Ruthig was asking, is the gray line outside the black line the clear? Yes, this is MDF. And when I carved out the entire thing, come on, hold it right, Mark. I carved out the entire thing and poured clear in it the way Rob and Shane have taught me. And this is where that clear absorbed into the MDF. Okay. And that made that little ghost line around the entire thing. There is no finish on the rest of the MDF. When I put the finish on the rest of the MDF, that little ghost line will disappear because the rest of the MDF will absorb the finish. And I personally, I can't wait. I mean, this turned out so much better than I expected. It really did. And I'm very happy. I mean, I don't think it's going to come in very well. Let's see if it'll focus. There it is. You see those black outlines around the skull and crossbones? I mean, I am seriously impressed with that. I mean, wow. And so, yeah, I'm happy as heck. David wants to know, are you going to create a composite video when it's done? Yes, I am. And that video will come out, as I said, on Sunday, November 6th. So it's not next week's video, which is almost done. It's 2 weeks after that. Rob, you should be a happy teacher because I am very happy with the result. You should be very happy with your teaching prowess because couldn't have done it without you. I'm serious. But I got to say, this was a lot of fun. And I have a feeling this is going to be like two-sided machining in that it's like two different bags of potato chips. You can't have just one. You'll say, well, I'm just going to do this one epoxy project and move on. Well, now that it's done, you can't do just one. Just like two-sided machining. Now that I have that one you can't do just one. I'm going to be looking for excuses to include epoxy and two-sided machining into a two-sided machining epoxy video. That would have to happen in the new year. So let's see. Peter Van Vliet wants to know, does VCar Pro Respire have any real-time controller screens in their program, like what Lightburn does for the laser strength and power while the burn is happening? No, because, okay, not always, but generally speaking, you are not controlling your CNC router with vCarver Aspire. Generally speaking, there are exceptions on some machines, but you will have to get a hold of your machine manufacturer. There is a program called vTransfer. vTransfer has to be installed with your controller software on the computer that you're going to be running the CNC off of. And if you notice let me mark, you have to share screen again. When you get over here, shut off the toolpaths and close it. Go back here. No, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Is it in this? No, it's not in that. Where is it? They must have removed it. Yes, they have. It's in the machine setup. There is an option to output directly to the machine. Your machine has to be compatible with that option. Your controller software has to be compatible with that option. And your post processor has to be compatible with that option. Most home hobby CNCs are not compatible with that option. And as David said, you have to do that in your machine control software, be it Mach 3, Mach 4, or any of the others, G-code sender, universal G-code sender, WinCNC, UCCNC, whatever it is. So I would say if you're looking for that, get a hold of your machine manufacturer. If your machine is compatible, they'll let you know. If it's not, believe me, they'll let you know. So, but generally speaking, no, there is no way to control any of that real-time control. Mach 4, I have some control. I can speed it up. I can slow it down. But, you can't go in and change a vector while the bit is cutting. That's a no-go. So, and I don't think any controller will do that. I don't know that for a fact, but I can't think of. Let's see here. Russell Faraday wants to know keyholes and logo on the back. Does that count as two-sided? Well, it can. It can. Speaking of which, thank you for reminding me. I got to go back and reprogram my keyhole G code now that I've changed over to Mach 4. So, let's see. David, am I pronouncing your name wrong? Is it Gament or Gamut or I butchering names is my thing, along with saying the wrong word. So, but I know it gets tiresome after a while. Can you recommend a good reference for 3D design from scratch with vectors? Yes, sir, I can. Michael Mazalik. There's a link to his channel in the description right now. And there should be a link to his channel in every one of my live streams. Soft G. Okay, so it's Gement. You may have to give me a class. I apologize. I really do. I'm sure you get it all the time. But Michael Mazalik is your man. It uh, he's my 3D guru, and he has done a couple of series where he has done exactly that, David. I mean, some folks told him, Jamment. Okay, thank you. David Jamment. I will remember that. Okay. I will try to remember that. Somebody told him that there was no way he could make this old man's face in Aspire. So he not only proceeded to go ahead and do it anyway, he made a video series about it. And he started with vectors, created the shapes, did it in sections, and did it in various stages: nose, lips, mouth, ears, all of them separately, blended everything together. And wow, is all I can say. He is the man. He is the man. Uh, Michael Mazalik, there's a link to his channel down in the description. He has a whole series on 3D modeling for beginners in Aspire, and he has forgotten more about 3D than I have ever learned. So he's my go-to, and I don't see that changing. So let's see. We're getting about to the top. Wow, we're past the top of the outer hour. This will be the last question here. Get back over here. And Larry Brown wants to know, is there a scanning laser that I can mount on my CNC to scan a 2D surface so I can create a G-code file to duplicate a relief? That I do not know. Now, there are 3D scanners out there. They're expensive. And I'm assuming you mean 3D. They are expensive. The software to control them is expensive. There are ways, but there are ways of doing it, but it's going to be controller specific, controller software specific. Without getting too technical on something that I know very little about, basically what it does is when it scans, you're making not really a point cloud, but it's similar to a point cloud. Um, kind of sort of, yeah, like photogrammic, mesh room. Yes, look for photogrammetry software. What I would do is I would just do a Google search for CNC laser scanning and see what you find. but I would not be surprised to see it's pretty pricey. Um, there are, I have various interests, and one of the interests I have is in custom cars and hot rodding and just basically sheet metal art on wheels. And one of the YouTube channels I follow is called Retro Power. They're over in the UK, and they do a lot of 3D scanning. Like they're working on an E-Type Jaguar right now, and they have scanned almost that entire body in and got it uh, into the computer. They import it into Fusion 360 and then do their modeling changes there within CAD, and then use those CAD models to create bucks for molds and things of that nature. Um, but it is expensive. I mean, it's a handheld unit, but the particular one they use is a handheld unit, but it's also about, I want to say about $7,000 just for that unit. That's not including the scanning software. So I'm sure there's an option out there for you, but without knowing the specifics and machine and the type that you're talking about, I mean, it's hard to guide you. But if you do look for um, 3D laser scanning or CNC 3D laser scanning, I'm sure you'll find uh, some a direction to go. Ronald Cool is telling me the output toolpath machine is in save toolpath. Okay, I thought so. So, um, doesn't Carveco equipment scan? I have no idea about Carveco. I've never used it. I've never used it. Russell Faraday, what group about cars? It's let me just go ahead and find him. I mean, it's a great channel, and they usually put out a video every Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning, my time. It's 11 Pacific, but it's called Retro Power. Let me find them here. Retro Power Cars. My mistake. And copy. This is probably not good that I'm sending them sending a link, which is going to take you away from my channel. But there they are, Retro Power Cars. I just put a link in the chat. Right click the link, open a new tab, then come back over here. These guys do amazing work, and they're over in the UK, Russell. Um, I dream of owning something they've built. These guys are amazing. So, let's see. Lots of comments about the 3D scanning and laser scanning and what have you. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead. Boy, we've gone way over. I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Next week, I've had several questions, and as part of this pirate test piece, I used it and confirmed it. We're going to get into work offsets and get into the ability to set up a very simple fixture on the CNC router spoil board, where you can come in, put your workpiece down, set the XY 0 one time, then save that, take this off of the machine, go pour the first layer of epoxy, come back in, put it down exactly the same place, and never have to touch that three-way touch plate again. Your XY0 is set. You will have to set your Z0 for the tool bit length, but that's all. Basically is creating the most simple fixture you can save and set that as I used a G59 work offset to set that XY0 in exactly the same place every time. I took this off of the machine and poured the epoxy in the house over the course of 8 days, and it was spot on, never one error. So that will be next week's video. That'll come out Sunday, and then we'll do the live Q&A on that. As far as I know, that's it. So let me go ahead and wrap this up by saying thank you to everybody. Thank you for all watching the videos, commenting on the videos, giving them a thumbs up and sharing them. I want to give a special shout out to my channel members. Channel members have a members only live stream tomorrow. 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. We'll talk about this, believe me, because I have quite a few tips to pass on to you. Questions I got from a couple of other folks. If you'd like information about becoming a channel member, click the little join button right next to the subscribe button. A panel will pop up, a video will play, it'll tell you how to become a channel member, tell you more than you want to know about channel memberships. Then you can join us for these members only live streams on Monday nights as well. Thank you to everybody for watching, commenting, and we will see you next week. So until then, go do something cool. Go out in the shop, make some chips, have some fun. Get out of here, will you? Y'all take care. See you next week. Thank you very much. And yeah, bye.